When did you realize your HOA president was targeting you specifically? I got home from my 12-hour ER shift at 11:47 p.m. and found a certified letter taped to my front door. My hands were shaking as I pulled it down. The envelope was thick, official, the kind that never brings good news. I'd been on my feet since 7 a.m., dealt with 2 cardiac arrests and a stabbing victim, and all I wanted was to check on Maya and collapse into bed. I ripped it open, standing there on my doorstep. Notice of intent to lien. The words jumped out in bold letters. You have 30 days to remit payment of $2,100 in outstanding HOA violations, or a lien will be placed on your property. $2,100. I read it again, then again. The numbers didn't change. My front door opened. Maya stood there in her Encanto pajamas, rubbing her eyes. She's 8, small for her age, dark curls tangled from sleep. Mommy, why are you crying? I didn't realize I was. I wiped my face fast and shoved the letter behind my back. Just tired, baby. Go back to bed. You're always tired. She looked at me with those big brown eyes that saw too much. Are we okay? We're fine, I promise. She went back inside. I stayed on the porch, staring at that letter under the dim yellow light. The violations were listed in neat rows. Parking violation, vehicle protruding 4 inches beyond designated space, photographed September 4th, 2024 at 6:47 a.m. Fine, $150. Trash receptacles placed curbside at 6:55 p.m. instead of required 7 p.m. Photographed September 11th, 2024. Fine, $150. Lawn height measured at 3.2 inches exceeds maximum 3.0 inches, photographed September 18th, 2024. Fine, $150. It went on and on. Faded house numbers, porch light out during daytime inspection, garden hose visible from street. Each one was $150. I went inside, locked the door, and spread all the notices across my kitchen table. I'd been ignoring them for 3 weeks, thinking they were mistakes. Thinking if I just paid the first couple and apologized, they'd stop coming. I'd paid $300 already. Apologized twice to the HOA office. Measured my parking space with a tape measure to make sure I was doing it right. They kept coming anyway. I looked at the dates. Every single violation happened on a Tuesday, Thursday, or Saturday. The days I worked night shift. The photos were all taken at times when I couldn't possibly fix anything. Early morning before I got home, late evening when I was already at the hospital. My mortgage is $1,847 a month. Car payment is $340. Maya's ADHD medication and therapy costs $280 after insurance. I make $62,000 a year as an ER nurse, which sounds like decent money until you're a single mother in Atlanta paying for everything alone. I opened my laptop and pulled up my bank account. $843 in savings. That's what was left after I covered Maya's therapy bills last month. I did the math in my head. $2,100. That's 6 weeks of groceries. 4 months of car payments, 7 months of Maya's medication. I couldn't breathe right. My chest got tight, that familiar feeling I'd been getting since the divorce 2 years ago. Panic attacks. I thought they were getting better. I grabbed my Ativan from the bathroom cabinet, took one, and sat on the cold tile floor waiting for it to kick in. If they put a lien on my house, my credit score would drop 200 points, maybe more. I wouldn't be able to rent anywhere decent. Apartments in good school districts require a 700 credit score minimum. Maya would have to change schools mid-year, lose her IEP support, lose her friends, lose her routine. Kids with ADHD need stability. That's what her therapist says every session. And my custody agreement with my ex-husband specifically states I have to maintain stable housing. A foreclosure could give him grounds to challenge custody. I couldn't ask my parents for money. They're retired, living on Social Security, and they already helped with my down payment. I couldn't work more shifts. I was already doing 3 12-hour nights, plus picking up extra hours whenever possible. I did everything right. I paid the fines. I apologized. Why wouldn't they stop? At 3:30 a.m., I gave up on sleep and pulled out the HOA bylaws. I'd gotten them when I bought the townhouse 8 months ago, but never read them. The document was 47 pages of dense legal language that made my eyes cross, but I started reading anyway, and cross-referencing with the violation notices. That's when I found it. Section 12.3. Parking violations require written warning with 48-hour cure period before assessment of fines. I never got a warning, not one. Section 9.7. Lawn maintenance violations must be measured by neutral third-party contractor licensed by the county. I looked at the photos again. The logo in the corner, Prestige Towing and Property Services. I Googled them. The owner was Derek Brennan. Charles Brennan, the HOA president, had a brother named Derek. I'd seen them together at the community pool last summer. Section 15.2. All fines exceeding $100 require majority board vote during official meeting with recorded minutes available to homeowners upon request. I called the HOA office the next morning and asked for the meeting minutes. The woman on the phone said processing takes 10 to 14 days. I kept reading, searching online, found articles about HOA abuse, predatory enforcement targeting single mothers and elderly people who couldn't fight back, found Georgia state law that said homeowners have the right to request all official HOA records within 10 business days. At 4:17 a.m., I wrote an email to the HOA office. Subject line, official records request. 10 business days required response. I requested all board meeting minutes from January through September 2024, all contracts with enforcement companies, all violation notices issued to all homeowners in the same period. I cited Georgia Code Section 44-3-221. I copied the email to my personal Gmail and printed it out. Then I sat back in my chair, hands shaking, and realized what I'd just done. I just challenged Charles Brennan, a man who'd been running this HOA like his personal kingdom for 6 years, a man who smiled at me in the parking lot while bankrupting me. I hit send and my stomach dropped. I didn't know if I just saved my house or guaranteed I'd lose it faster, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to disappear quietly. 8 days passed with no response from the HOA. On day 9, I sent a follow-up email. This time I copied Piedmont Property Group, the management company that handled HOA operations. Still nothing. Day 10 was the legal deadline. I got home from my Thursday night shift at 4:47 p.m. and found a delivery truck pulling away from my driveway. A cardboard box sat on my doorstep, big enough to hold a microwave. I dragged it inside. The thing was heavy. Maya was at her after-school program until 6. I had the house to myself. I opened the box and stared. 300 pages, maybe more. Photocopies stacked in no particular order, no labels, no organization. Some pages were so blurry I could barely read them. Others were printed upside down. A few were duplicates of the same document, like someone had just hit print without checking what they were doing. This was deliberate. They were burying me in paper. I dumped everything onto my living room floor and started sorting. By date first, then by type. Board meeting minutes in one pile, financial reports in another, violation notices in a third. It took me 2 hours just to organize what they'd sent. Maya came home at 6. I made her chicken nuggets and helped her with homework while the documents sat there waiting. She went to bed at 8:30. I went back to the floor. The board meeting minutes from June 2024 were near the bottom of the stack. The pages were slightly crooked, like someone had photocopied them at an angle on purpose. June 18, 2024, regular board meeting, Oak Ridge HOA, present, Charles Brennan, president, Linda Kowalski, vice president, Margaret Chen, member. Absent with excuse, Paul Richardson, Susan Okafor. I read that line 3 times. 5 board members total. Only 3 showed up. The meeting notes continued. Motion to approve contract with Prestige Towing and Property Services for proactive violation monitoring. Monthly retainer of $500 plus 60% of collected fines. Motion by Brennan. Second by Kowalski. Vote 3-0 in favor. I grabbed my copy of the HOA bylaws and flipped to section 7.4. Quorum for official board votes shall consist of 4 members. Excused absences shall not constitute presence for quorum purposes. 4 members. They only had 3. The vote was invalid. Which meant the entire contract with Prestige Towing was void. Which meant every single fine they'd issued under that contract was unenforceable. I sat there on my living room floor surrounded by 300 pages of deliberately disorganized documents and started laughing. It came out harsh and a little wild. I couldn't stop. They'd screwed up. They'd broken their own rules, put it in writing, and then handed me the evidence. I grabbed my phone and took photos of the June meeting minutes. Then I photographed the bylaw section about quorum. Then I went back through the entire stack looking for the Prestige Towing contract. Found it 40 minutes later, signed by Charles Brennan on behalf of the HOA. Monthly retainer, $500. Revenue split. 60% to Prestige Towing, 40% to HOA General Fund. Derek Brennan's signature at the bottom as owner of Prestige Towing. Charles's brother-in-law was getting 60% of every fine his company found. And Charles had approved the contract in a meeting that didn't have enough members to legally vote. I photographed everything, backed up the photos to 3 different places. Google Drive, my laptop, a USB stick I hid in Maya's old baby book on the highest shelf in my closet. Then I sat back and tried to figure out what to do with it. I had evidence of procedural violations, maybe fraud, but I didn't know what that meant legally. I didn't know if it was enough to void my fines. I didn't know if anyone would care. What I did know was that I had 19 days left before they could put a lien on my house, and I was holding proof that the people threatening to take my home had been breaking the law for months. The next HOA board meeting was on the second Tuesday of October at 7 p.m. I'd never attended one before. I arrived 10 minutes early, and the community clubhouse was nearly empty. Just a folding table at the front with 5 chairs behind it and maybe 20 plastic chairs for residents. Charles Brennan was already there, shuffling papers. Linda Kowalski sat next to him, typing on her phone. A third board member sat at the far end, an older Asian woman who kept her eyes down. Margaret Chen, according to the nameplate in front of her. Charles looked up when I walked in. His eyebrows went up for just a second before he smiled. Miss Martinez, I didn't know you were interested in HOA governance. I'm learning, I said. I sat in the front row. My heart was hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. The meeting started at 7:03. Charles went through the agenda, financial report, landscaping updates, architectural committee approvals. His voice was smooth and practiced, like he'd done this 1,000 times. At 7:20, he said, "That concludes official business. We'll now open the floor for homeowner comments. 3 minutes per person." I raised my hand. Charles nodded at me. Miss Martinez. I stood up. My legs felt shaky, but I kept my voice level. I've been reviewing the board meeting minutes from June. The vote to approve the Prestige Towing contract. I noticed only 3 board members were present. According to section 7.4 of our bylaws, 4 members are required for quorum. I'm wondering if that vote was valid. The room went quiet. Charles's smile didn't move. Excused absences are standard procedure, Ms. Martinez. The vote was legitimate. I pulled out my phone where I'd saved a photo of the bylaws. Section 7.4 states that excused absences shall not constitute presence for quorum purposes. That means you needed 4 people physically present. You only had 3. His smile tightened just slightly at the corners. I appreciate your interest in HOA procedures. I'll have our attorney review your interpretation. Next comment. I also noticed a pattern in the enforcement data. Most violations seem to be concentrated on certain properties. Have you noticed that? Linda Kowalski spoke up. We enforce equally, Ms. Martinez. If you're receiving notices, perhaps you should maintain your property better. Margaret Chen sat there silent, staring at the table in front of her. She wouldn't look at me. Charles stood. If there are no further comments, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn, Linda said immediately. Second, Margaret whispered. Meeting adjourned. Charles banged a small wooden gavel against the table. I'd been there less than 30 minutes. I'd accomplished nothing. I walked to my car. The parking lot was mostly empty, just a few streetlights casting yellow pools on the asphalt. I was unlocking my door when I heard footsteps behind me. Miss Martinez, a word? Charles. He'd followed me outside. He wasn't smiling anymore. I understand you're stressed, he said. His voice was different now, quieter, harder. Single parenthood is difficult. I have sympathy for that. But questioning the board's authority won't help your situation. In fact, it could make things worse. I'd hate to see additional violations stack up. It wasn't an explicit threat, but the meaning was clear. I'm just asking questions, I said. Sometimes questions create problems that didn't exist before. He took a step closer. Think about Maya. Stability is important for children, especially children with special needs. My stomach dropped. How do you know my daughter's name? This is a small community, Ms. Martinez. People talk. I know she attends Ashford Elementary. Excellent special education program there. It would be a shame if she had to change schools mid-year. Very disruptive for a child with ADHD. He said it casually, like he was making small talk about the weather. I'd never mentioned Maya's ADHD to anyone in the HOA, not once. Stay away from my daughter, I said. Charles held up his hands. I'm not threatening anyone. I'm simply pointing out that your actions have consequences, for you and for Maya. Have a good evening, Ms. Martinez. He walked back toward the clubhouse. I sat in my car shaking, not from fear, from rage. He knew about Maya, he knew about her school, he knew about her diagnosis. He'd been watching us. I drove home and checked every lock twice before I let myself breathe. Maya was asleep on the couch, her math homework spread out on the coffee table. I carried her upstairs and tucked her in. Then I went back down and stared at my phone. 17 days until they could put a lien on my house, and Charles Brennan had just made it clear that fighting back would only make things worse. 3 days after the board meeting, I found another violation notice taped to my door. Mailbox position 2.3 inches beyond permitted distance from curb per USPS guidelines. Fine, $200. I walked out to the street and stared at my mailbox. It was in the exact same spot it had been since I moved in 8 months ago. Nobody had ever mentioned it before. I went back inside. There was a second notice stuck to my front window. Decorative planter contains unapproved terracotta coloring. All visible planters must be black, white, or gray per architectural guidelines. Fine, $200. The planter had been on my porch since February. The same terracotta pot I'd bought at Home Depot the week I moved in. The next morning, I woke up to a third notice wedged in my doorframe. Vehicle parked in driveway obstructs sidewalk visibility and creates pedestrian safety hazard. Fine, $200. I grabbed my phone and took photos. My car was parked exactly where it always was. I walked to the sidewalk and measured. 4 feet of clearance. A semi-truck could pass by without anyone stepping into the grass. $600 in fines. 4 days. My new total was $2,700. 22 days until they could file the lien. I sat down at my kitchen table and typed out an email to the HOA office. I attached all the photos showing my mailbox in its original position, my planter that had been there for months, my car with clear sidewalk access. I explained in detail why each violation was either factually incorrect or applied retroactively to something they'd previously approved. The response came back in less than a minute. Automated. Your concerns will be reviewed at the next scheduled board meeting on November 12th, 2024. Thank you for your patience. November 12th was 17 days away. 3 days past my payment deadline. I called the Piedmont Property Group office. The woman who answered sounded bored. I need to speak to someone about these violation notices. All enforcement decisions are made by the board, ma'am. We just process the paperwork. These fines are wrong. I have photo evidence. You'll need to work directly with President Brennan. Can you give me his phone number? That information isn't provided to residents. You can attend the monthly board meetings or submit written correspondence through our office. She hung up. I sat there holding my phone. Charles Brennan was making it impossible to fight back. Every path led back to him. Every deadline was designed to run out before I could get help. I went to work that night barely holding it together. We had a multi-car accident come in around 9 p.m. 3 patients. One was a 12-year-old girl with internal bleeding. I was setting up the IV line when Dr. Patterson asked me a question, and I just stood there. My mind was completely blank. Elena, the girl's blood type. I stared at him. Elena. Oh, negative, I said finally. But it took me too long, way too long. He gave me a look and took over himself. At midnight during my break, I went to the staff room and just started crying. I couldn't stop. My chest hurt. I couldn't breathe right. Shanice came in to grab her lunch and found me on the floor. Elena, Jesus, what's wrong? She sat down next to me, waited until I could talk. I told her everything. The fines, Charles Brennan, the lien, the retaliation, losing my house, Maya having to change schools, the custody agreement, all of it came spilling out. Girl, that sounds illegal, Shanice said when I finally stopped. Like, actually illegal. My cousin's a paralegal. You want me to ask her? I can't afford a lawyer. Just asking is free. Let me text her. I wiped my face. I almost gave that kid the wrong blood type tonight. Shanice looked at me. When's the last time you slept? I don't know. You taking your anxiety meds? They're not working anymore. Elena, you're going to lose your license if you keep this up. I knew she was right. The panic attacks were happening every day now, sometimes twice a day. I was making mistakes. Small ones so far, but it only took one big mistake to kill someone in the ER. If I lost my nursing license, I lost everything. The house wouldn't even matter anymore. Maya had asked me that morning why I was crying in my sleep. I didn't even know I'd been doing it. I told her I was just tired. She said I was always tired now. Her teacher had emailed me yesterday. Maya seems anxious lately, having trouble focusing even with her medication. Any changes at home we should know about? I hadn't responded. What was I supposed to say? Yes, we're about to be homeless because the HOA president is targeting us and I'm having panic attacks at work and your student is absorbing all of it like a sponge. Shanice pulled out her phone. I'm texting my cousin right now. Her name's Vanessa. She works at a civil rights firm downtown. Maybe she knows someone who can help. Shanice, I can't afford... Stop. Let me just ask. She typed for a minute, then put her phone away. She'll get back to me tomorrow. Just breathe, okay? You're not alone in this. But I felt alone. Completely alone. Charles Brennan had all the power. He had the board. He had the management company. He had his brother-in-law issuing the violations. He had the bylaws that he interpreted however he wanted. I had nothing except a stack of papers I didn't understand and a deadline that was getting closer every day. I finished my shift, drove home, checked every lock twice. Maya was asleep on the couch again with her homework scattered everywhere. I carried her upstairs. She was getting too big for this. She'd be 9 in December. I tucked her in and sat on the edge of her bed watching her breathe. 19 days. That's all I had left to figure out how to fight back against a man who'd been doing this for 6 years. A man who knew where my daughter went to school. A man who smiled while he buried me. On Wednesday afternoon, I wrote a formal appeal letter to the full HOA board. I cited every bylaw they'd violated. Attached photos proving the violations were either false or applied retroactively. Requested an in-person hearing. Asked them to suspend all fines pending review. I printed 5 copies and mailed them certified to each board member. 1 more to Piedmont Property Group. Then I waited. 1 week. Nothing. I called Charles's phone number on day 8, the one listed on the HOA website as the president contact. His voicemail was full. I called Linda Kowalski next. This is Linda. Hi, this is Elena Martinez. I sent an appeal letter last week about my HOA fines. I haven't heard back. I don't handle operational issues. Direct all questions to the management company. She hung up before I could respond. I called Piedmont Property Group. Oak Ridge account, this is Brenda. I need to speak to someone about my appeal. I sent it over a week ago. Hold, please. I held for 6 minutes. Then a different voice came on. Ms. Martinez, the board has reviewed and declined your appeal. The fine stand is issued. You have 14 days remaining to remit payment of $2,700 or lien proceedings will commence. But the violations are documented as false. I have photo evidence. The board's decision is final. Have a good day. Click. I sat there staring at Maya's school photo on my desk. She was smiling with her 2 front teeth missing, holding the reading award she'd earned last spring. The school that understood her. The therapist who'd finally figured out the right medication balance. The friends who invited her to birthday parties. All of it depended on this house. Charles Brennan was going to take it away and nobody would stop him. Unless I found another way. That Sunday, I made a decision. I opened Facebook and found the Oak Ridge HOA community group. 340 members. I joined when I moved in but never posted anything. I typed, has anyone else received questionable HOA fines? Looking to compare experiences. I hit post before I could second guess myself. 23 comments in 2 hours. Most were complaints about Charles being strict but fair. A few people said the HOA kept property values high. Someone posted a thumbs up emoji. Then 3 direct messages appeared. The first was from Yuki Chen. Don't post this publicly. They're watching. Can we talk in person? The second was from Edgar Webb. I'm a former paralegal. Something isn't right here. I've been documenting. The third was from Martha Rodriguez. They're trying to force me out too. I'm scared. I stared at my phone. I wasn't alone. I messaged Yuki back. When can we meet? Tonight if you're free. I'm 3 doors down. 2889 Oak Lane. Maya was at a birthday party until 6. I walked over at 4:30. Yuki answered the door in joggers and an oversized Georgia Tech sweatshirt. She was younger than me, maybe late 20s, with dark hair pulled into a messy bun. Come in, fast. Her living room looked like a data analyst's war room. 2 monitors on her desk, printed spreadsheets covering her coffee table. A whiteboard on the wall covered in notes and dates. You've been tracking this, I said, for 14 months. She pulled up a massive Excel file on her laptop. Sit. I'll show you everything. The spreadsheet had 847 rows, property addresses, violation dates, fine amounts, photos, cross-referenced with public HOA financial records. I got my first fine last June, Yuki said. $800 total. Garden gnome wasn't approved by architectural committee. Doormat was wrong color. Holiday wreath displayed outside permitted season. I paid everything because I didn't know what else to do. But you started tracking. I drive through the neighborhood twice a week, photograph every property, timestamp everything. She pulled up a folder of photos, hundreds of them. Look at this. She showed me a chart. 73% of all fines went to 6 properties. Who owns them? I asked. Single women. Elderly residents. That's it. She pulled up more photos. Charles's next-door neighbor has had an RV parked in his driveway for 7 months. Clear violation, 0 fines. She showed me another photo. Linda Kowalski's rental property. Landscaping is completely overgrown, 0 fines. My hands were shaking. This is discrimination. It's worse than that. Yuki opened another file. Public financial records from the county clerk's office. Prestige Towing received $18,400 between May and August. Before they got hired, the HOA collected an average of $600 a month in fines. After, $4,100 a month. They're making money off us. Charles's brother-in-law owns Prestige. They're splitting the fines. She leaned back. I've been too scared to do anything with this data. I have severe social anxiety. I barely leave my house except for work. But when I saw your post, I thought maybe we could actually fight back. I looked at the spreadsheet, at the photos, at 14 months of careful documentation. We need a lawyer, I said. I know, but I can't afford one. Me neither. We sat there in silence for a minute. Then Yuki said, there was another message. Edgar Webb. You contact him yet? Not yet. He said he's a paralegal. Maybe he knows what to do with all this. I pulled out my phone and opened his message. I'm a former paralegal. Something isn't right here. I typed back. Can we meet? Tomorrow? His response came 30 seconds later. Community Park, noon. Bring everything you have. The next day, I met Edgar Webb at the community park. He was sitting on a bench near the playground, wearing khaki pants and a Navy veteran baseball cap. Tall, thin, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He reminded me of my grandfather. Miss Martinez? Elena, thank you for meeting me. Call me Edgar. He patted the bench. Sit. Show me what you've got. I pulled out my folder. All my violation notices, the HOA bylaws, the board meeting minutes, the photos I'd taken. Edgar went through everything slowly. He had a yellow legal pad and made notes in careful handwriting. You requested the same records I did, he said after 10 minutes. You requested records too? First thing I did when I moved here 13 months ago, he tapped the bylaws. 40 years as a paralegal, civil litigation, I can spot procedural violations a mile away. He flipped through his own folder. It was twice as thick as mine. I found 12 specific legal violations in the past 8 months. Invalid board votes due to quorum issues. Contracts approved without homeowner notification, which is required for anything over $5,000. Fines assessed without the required warning periods. No appeals process despite the bylaws requiring one. And financial self-dealing, which is Charles's brother-in-law profiting from enforcement. Is that illegal? In Georgia? Yes. HOA board members can't financially benefit from enforcement actions. That's textbook conflict of interest. He closed the folder. This isn't just aggressive enforcement, Elena. This is fraud. My hands started shaking. So what do? We need more evidence. We need proof of intentional targeting. Emails, text messages, anything showing they're deliberately going after specific homeowners. How do we get that? We can't. We're not board members. He leaned back. But if we can prove systematic discrimination and financial self-dealing, we might have grounds for a civil suit. Or we force the board to conduct an internal investigation. And Charles won't investigate himself. No. But if enough homeowners demand it, he won't have a choice. I thought about Yuki's spreadsheet, about Martha Rodriguez being scared, about the other people who'd messaged me. There are others, I said. Other people getting targeted. Edgar nodded. I suspected as much. How many? I don't know yet. A few reached out. Yuki Chen has been tracking violations for over a year. She has data showing 73% of fines go to just 6 properties. All owned by? Single women. Elderly residents. Edgar was quiet for a minute. Then he said, I'll help you. Pro bono, I'm bored in retirement anyway, and I hate bullies. Why would you do that? He pointed at his Navy cap. I'm a veteran. I flew an American flag on my porch when I moved here. Charles sent me a violation notice. Said the flag wasn't the approved size. That's federally protected. I know. I cited the Freedom to Display the American Flag Act of 2005. He backed down immediately. Edgar's jaw tightened. But I knew he'd come after me eventually. Men like Charles don't like being challenged. They'll find another way. He threatened my daughter. Edgar looked at me. What did he say? He knows her name. Knows she has ADHD. Knows what school she goes to. He said it would be a shame if she had to change schools mid-year. That's witness intimidation. Can we prove it? Did anyone else hear him say it? No, it was just the two of us in the parking lot. Edgar made a note on his legal pad. We'll document everything going forward. Every conversation, every violation, every interaction. He looked up. How many days do you have left? 12. Then we need to move fast. That evening, the three of us met at Yuki's house. We spread everything across her dining table, Yuki's spreadsheet on her laptop, Edgar's legal notes on yellow paper, my stack of violation notices and photos. Edgar went through Yuki's data first, row by row. He made notes, asked questions about her methodology, checked her math. This is solid, he said after 20 minutes. Systematic, documented, undeniable. Yuki pulled up more files. I cross-referenced with public financial records from the county clerk. Prestige Towing's payments from the HOA increased by 600% after they got hired. Edgar sat back. We have proof of selective enforcement, proof of financial self-dealing, proof of procedural violations. But we need the smoking gun. What's that? I asked. Communications, emails, texts, anything showing they deliberately targeted specific homeowners. Right now we have pattern evidence. We need intent. How do we get that? We can't. Not without access to internal HOA communications. We're not board members. Yuki typed something into her laptop. What if we file individual records requests? All of us at once. Force them to produce everything. Overwhelm them with simultaneous demands. Edgar nodded slowly. Better. We get other victims involved. Multiple requests filed the same day. HOA has to respond to all of them within 10 business days. They can't ignore 14 people at once. I felt my stomach tighten. I can't ask people to risk retaliation. Charles already threatened my daughter. They're already being retaliated against, Edgar said. We're offering them a way to fight back. Yuki pulled up her spreadsheet. According to my data, 14 homeowners received excessive fines. If we can recruit even half of them, that's 7 simultaneous records requests. Edgar grabbed his legal pad. Here's what we do. Identify everyone who's been targeted. Contact them individually. No group meetings yet, too risky. Explain what we found. Ask them to file official records requests using a template I'll draft. We compare what they send back, look for inconsistencies, hidden communications, build a case for either mass appeal or legal action. And we stay quiet, Yuki added. No Facebook posts. No public confrontations with Charles. We work underground until we have everything we need. I looked at both of them. This could take weeks. I have 12 days. Edgar met my eyes. Then we move fast. We execute this in 3 days. Thursday. That gives us the weekend to organize responses and figure out next steps. Yuki was already typing. I'll create a private signal group. Encrypted. No Facebook trail. I'll set up a shared Google Drive for evidence. Read-only access so nothing gets accidentally deleted. Edgar pulled out a blank legal pad. I'll draft the records request template tonight. Legally precise. Hard to deny. We include specific document types, specific date ranges, specific contract names. What do? I asked. You help recruit, Edgar said. You're the face of this. You're a nurse, a single mother, sympathetic. People will trust you more than they'll trust a paranoid data analyst and a retired paralegal. Yuki didn't argue. She just kept typing. We spent another hour planning. Made a list of the 14 homeowners from Yuki's data, divided them up, decided who would contact whom. By 9 p.m., we had a plan. Thursday morning, we'd start recruiting. By Thursday night, we'd send the records requests. By the following Thursday, the HOA would have to respond. I walked home in the dark. Maya was already asleep when I got there. I sat on my couch and pulled up the Signal app Yuki had made me download. The group chat was called Oak Ridge Truth, just the three of us so far. Edgar had already posted the records request template. 3 paragraphs of legal language citing Georgia Code sections and HOA bylaw requirements. Yuki posted, timeline confirmed, execute Thursday, October 10th. Target, 10 plus participants. I typed, I'm in. Then I turned off my phone and tried to sleep. 11 days left. Wednesday and Thursday, we went door to door. Martha Rodriguez lived 2 streets over in a small ranch house with faded yellow shutters. She was 71, tiny, with white hair pulled back in a bun. She answered the door holding a dish towel. Mrs. Rodriguez? I'm Elena Martinez. I sent you a message on Facebook about the HOA fines. Her face crumpled. Come in, please. Her living room was full of family photos, grandchildren, wedding pictures, a man in a Navy uniform who I assumed was her late husband. She showed me her violation notices. $1,400 since her husband died 6 months ago. Mailbox paint faded. Lawn service missed 1 week while she was at the funeral. Porch furniture weathered. I'm on Social Security, she said. Her hands shook. $18.40 a month. That's it. I can't pay these fines. I don't know what to do. You're not alone, I said. There are others. We've been documenting everything. Charles is targeting specific people, single women, elderly residents, people he thinks won't fight back. What if they kick me out? She was crying now. This is the house where I raised my children. My husband built that deck in the backyard. I can't leave. They're counting on you being too scared to fight. We're not asking you to fight alone. She wiped her eyes with a dish towel. What do you need me to do? By Thursday evening, we'd contacted all 14 homeowners on Yuki's list. Diane Foster was 38, a second-grade teacher with 2 kids, $900 in fines because her children's toys were visible from the street. Bikes in the driveway, a basketball hoop, things kids actually use. James Park worked night shifts as a hospital custodian. Same hospital where I worked. We'd passed each other in the halls a dozen times without knowing we were neighbors. $1,100 in fines for parking his work van in his own driveway. They called it an industrial vehicle. Sandra Williams was 52, the only black homeowner on her street. $2,600 in fines over 10 months. Paint color violation, even though her house was the same beige as 6 others on the block. She looked me in the eye and said, I know exactly why they're doing this to me. Kevin and Tom Morrison were in their early 30s, married 3 years. $800 for unapproved paint color, also beige. Tom said, we're the only gay couple in the neighborhood. You think that's a coincidence? Every single person thought they were alone, thought they'd done something wrong, thought if they just apologized enough, paid enough, it would stop. When I showed them Yuki's data, the relief on their faces was immediate. Then came the anger. Most joined right away. A few were too scared. I didn't pressure them. By Thursday night, 11 homeowners had agreed to participate. We met at Yuki's house one more time. All 11 of us packed into her living room. Martha sat on the couch next to Diane. James stood in the corner. Sandra and the Morrisons sat on the floor. Edgar handed out the records request template. Everyone files tomorrow morning. Certified mail. Keep your receipts. The HOA has 10 business days to respond. What if they retaliate? Diane asked. Document everything, Edgar said. Photos. Timestamps. Save every email. We're building a case. Yuki pulled up her laptop. I'm adding everyone to the Signal group. Encrypted messaging. If you see anything suspicious, post it immediately. What happens after we get the records? James asked. We compare, I said. Look for patterns. Emails. Communications showing they targeted us deliberately. Then we decide next steps. Martha raised her hand like she was in school. What if this doesn't work? Nobody answered for a second. Then Edgar said, It'll work. We have the law on our side. We have documentation. We have numbers. Charles Brennan has been breaking the rules for years. We're just making sure everyone knows it. People started leaving around 9. Martha hugged me at the door. Sandra squeezed my hand. Tom Morrison said, Thank you for doing this. I drove home feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. Friday morning, all 11 of us mailed our records requests. Certified mail, return receipt. Edgar's template printed on clean white paper. We each requested the same things: board meeting minutes, enforcement contracts, violation records for the entire community, financial statements. By Friday afternoon, the Piedmont Property Group office had received 11 identical requests on the same day. Saturday morning, my phone buzzed. Signal message from Yuki. Emergency board meeting called. Tonight, 7 p.m. Someone spotted it posted on the clubhouse door. They knew. Edgar responded immediately. They're panicking. Good. That evening, I drove past the clubhouse. 5 cars in the parking lot. Charles's black Mercedes, Linda's white Lexus, 3 others I didn't recognize. They were in there right now, talking about us. Sunday morning, I checked my mailbox. There was a response from the HOA already. Official letterhead, Piedmont Property Group logo at the top. Your records request has been approved. Processing fee of $50 required before documents can be released. Payment due within 5 business days. I took a photo and posted it to Signal. Edgar called me 2 minutes later. That's illegal, he said. Georgia law allows reasonable fees for copying costs only. $50 per request is excessive. They're trying to make it too expensive for us to get the records. Can they do that? No, this is another violation we can add to the list. I did the math. $50 times 11 people. $550 they were trying to extract from us just to see documents we had a legal right to access. Sunday afternoon, I took Maya to Kroger. We needed milk and eggs, and I was out of her ADHD medication. I was in the produce section when I heard her voice. Elena. Linda Kowalski stood 3 feet away holding a bag of grapes. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. I heard you've been organizing the neighbors. My stomach dropped. I put my hand on Maya's shoulder. I'm just asking questions about HOA procedures. You're creating problems. She stepped closer. Charles has been very patient with you. Some board members wanted to accelerate your lien process. He talked them out of it. You should show gratitude. Maya tugged my sleeve. Mommy, who is this? Linda looked down at her, really looked at her, then back at me. I'm someone who helps decide if people get to keep living in our neighborhood. I felt my face go hot. We're done here. I grabbed Maya's hand and started walking away. Linda's voice followed us. Thursday's board meeting should be interesting. I'd attend if I were you. I didn't stop until we were in the frozen food aisle. Maya was looking up at me with worried eyes. Mommy, why was that lady mean? She wasn't being mean, baby. She was just talking. She looked mean. We finished shopping in silence. I kept checking over my shoulder. At home, I posted to Signal. Linda knows. She confronted me at Kroger, threatened me in front of Maya. Yuki responded first. They're scared. People who are confident don't threaten. Edgar. Document everything. Write down exactly what she said. Time, location, witnesses. James Park. Same thing happened to me yesterday. Charles's brother Derek showed up at the hospital where I work. Asked the security supervisor if I was a good employee. Said he was doing a background check for the HOA. Sandra Williams. Someone left a note on my car this morning. Drop it or you'll regret it. The Signal chat kept buzzing. Everyone reporting something. Pressure, threats, being watched. Thursday's board meeting was 4 days away. I stood there shaking, Maya's hand in mine, watching the messages pile up. They knew about our plan. They knew we'd coordinated. They knew exactly who was involved. We'd kicked the hornet's nest. And now we were about to find out if we had enough evidence to survive the stings. The harassment started Monday morning. I got home from my night shift and found 2 violation notices wedged in my doorframe. Not mailed, hand-delivered while I was at work. The first one said unauthorized vehicle repair. My dad had helped me change my oil in the driveway Sunday afternoon. 20 minutes. We cleaned up every drop. Fine, $250. The second one said noise disturbance. Maya and 3 friends had been playing tag in the backyard Saturday, at 2 in the afternoon. Fine, $250. My new total was $3,200, 18 days until the lien. Both notices were signed by Prestige Towing, not Charles, not the HOA office. His brother-in-law was delivering them personally now. Tuesday morning, Yuki posted to Signal, found this on my windshield, photo attached. It was a piece of printer paper, typed in all caps. Mind your business or you'll regret it. She'd called the police. They told her without a direct threat, there was nothing they could do. An hour later, Diane posted. My kids came home from school crying. Someone told them I'm trying to steal from the neighborhood. They're 8 and 10. Who says that to children? Then Martha got a phone call, unknown number. Man's voice said, if I don't drop the HOA thing, I'll lose everything. I'm scared. I want to quit. I called her immediately. Martha, we're almost there. Just a few more days. I can't do this, Elena. I'm 71 years old. I can't handle this stress. They're threatening you because they're scared. If we quit now, they win, and they'll keep doing this to other people. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, okay. Wednesday morning, Edgar posted a photo of a violation notice. Mailbox improperly maintained. He'd lived here 13 months with no complaints. Now suddenly his mailbox was a problem. He'd only been in their crosshairs since he started helping me. Kevin Morrison posted next. Someone stole our pride flag last night, then left a violation notice for unapproved flag display. They stole our flag and then fined us for not having it. The Signal chat was exploding. Everyone reporting something. Threats, harassment, being followed. I typed, emergency meeting tonight, my house, 7 p.m. Maya was at a friend's house for a sleepover. All 11 of us crammed into my living room. Everyone except Sandra, who was working nights. Diane was crying before anyone even spoke. I can't do this anymore. They're going after my kids. My actual children. James Park stood in the corner with his arms crossed. I got a notice today that my homeowner's insurance is being audited. That's not a coincidence. Martha sat on my couch twisting a tissue in her hands. What if we make it worse? What if we fight and lose everything anyway? Yuki pulled up her laptop. They're panicking. Confident people don't threaten. They know we found something. Edgar stood by the window. Tomorrow's meeting is crucial. We stay calm. We present evidence. We force them to respond on the record. Everyone was looking at me. I hadn't said anything yet. I took a breath. I know you're all scared. I'm scared too, but here's what I realized. They've already taken our piece. We jump at every car that drives by. We're afraid to go to the grocery store. Our kids are being bullied. This isn't living. The room went quiet. Tomorrow we either let them know they can't break us, or we accept this is how we'll live forever. I'm not accepting it. Silence. Then Yuki said, I'm in. Edgar nodded. I've been in. Diane wiped her eyes. Okay, I'm in. One by one, everyone committed. We spent the next hour planning. Edgar would speak first. Legal, calm, authoritative. Yuki would present the data. Visual proof they couldn't deny. I would share what this had done to my family, make it human, make it real. Everyone would record the meeting on their phones. Georgia was a one-party consent state. We could use the recordings later if we needed to. At 9 p.m., people started leaving. Martha hugged me at the door. Kevin squeezed my shoulder. James said, we've got this. After everyone left, I sat on my couch in the dark. Tomorrow was Thursday, October 3rd, the board meeting, 17 days until my lien deadline. Either we'd have enough evidence to stop Charles, or I'd lose everything trying. Thursday, October 3rd, 7 p.m. I walked into that clubhouse and my stomach dropped. The room was packed. 40 people. Maybe more. Every chair filled. People standing along the walls. I'd never seen this many neighbors in one place. Charles stood at the front table. He saw the crowd and his face went blank for half a second. Then he smoothed it over. Calm, in control. I see we have robust attendance tonight. Linda Kowalski was already seated next to him, arms crossed, tight smile. The other 3 board members looked uncomfortable. Margaret Chen kept her eyes on the table. Paul Richardson shifted in his seat. Susan Okafor whispered something to Margaret. Charles picked up his gavel. Tonight's agenda has been revised. We'll begin with the financial report, then architectural committee updates, then homeowner comments at the end if time allows. Edgar stood up before Charles could say another word. Point of order. Georgia HOA law requires homeowner comment period at the beginning of meetings. Charles didn't even look at him. That's discretionary. I'm exercising discretion. I have the statute printed here. Edgar held up a paper. It's not discretionary for meetings exceeding 15 attendees. Charles's jaw tightened. He looked around the room, counted heads, realized he was trapped. Fine. Brief comments. 3 minutes per person. Edgar walked to the front. He had a folder, pulled out documents, set them on the table in front of Charles. The June 18th board meeting vote to approve the Prestige towing contract was invalid. Only 3 board members were present. Your bylaws require 4 for quorum. Excused absences don't count toward quorum per section 7.4. The room went quiet. Edgar kept going. That means the Prestige towing contract is void. Every fine assessed under that void contract is unenforceable. Additionally, the contract itself violates your own bylaws, section 8.4, which prohibits board members from financially benefiting from enforcement. Charles Brennan's brother-in-law owns Prestige Towing and receives 60% of collected fines. That's textbook financial self-dealing. Charles interrupted. These are serious accusations without evidence. I have 11 homeowners here who filed records requests. Your office refused to comply without charging illegal processing fees. That's evidence. The pattern of selective enforcement violates the Fair Housing Act. I can cite the specific statute numbers if you'd like. Edgar sat down. Yuki stood up, she had her laptop, walked to the front and connected it to the projector someone had set up. Her spreadsheet appeared on the screen. Timeline of every violation issued in 18 months. Color-coded by property address, bar graphs showing demographic breakdown. She didn't say much, just let the data speak. 73% of fines concentrated on 6 properties. All owned by single women, elderly residents, minorities. She pulled up photos. Side-by-side comparisons. Elena's grass at 3.2 inches, fined $150. Charles's neighbor's grass at 4.1 inches the same week. No fine. Martha's faded mailbox, fined $200. Linda Kowalski's rental property with peeling paint. No fine. The room started buzzing. People recognizing their own houses in the data, realizing they weren't alone. Charles stood up fast. His chair scraped against the floor. This meeting is out of order. Homeowner comment time is over. I stood up. My voice came out steadier than I expected. You haven't called for a vote. That's required. I'm adjourning this meeting. You can't adjourn without a motion. Multiple people were yelling now. The room erupted. Linda tried to say something, but nobody could hear her over the noise. Then Margaret Chen stood up, quiet Margaret who never spoke at meetings, who always voted with Charles. Charles, I'd like to make a motion to suspend all pending fines pending an independent review. Charles turned on her. You're out of order, Margaret. No, Charles. Her voice shook, but she didn't sit down. You are. I've watched you abuse your position for months. I won't be silent anymore. The room exploded, people shouting questions, some defending Charles, most supporting Margaret. Charles banged his gavel, but the noise drowned him out. Linda stood up and walked out. Just left. Middle of the meeting. Paul Richardson, the quiet engineer on the board, stood up. I second Margaret's motion. Charles's face went red. This meeting is adjourned. He grabbed his papers and walked out. But Margaret, Paul, and Susan Okafor stayed seated. Margaret took a breath, picked up the gavel. The president has abandoned the meeting. As vice president, I'm assuming chair. We still have quorum with 3 members present. The motion is on the floor to suspend all pending fines pending independent review. Discussion? Susan spoke up. I support the motion. We should also hire a neutral third party to audit HOA practices. Agreed, Paul said. Margaret looked out at the room, at all of us. All in favor of suspending fines? 3 hands went up. Motion carries. All in favor of hiring independent auditor? 3 hands. Motion carries. All in favor of extending payment deadlines by 60 days? 3 hands. Motion carries. The room burst into applause. I looked at Yuki, at Edgar, at everyone who'd been too scared to speak up 3 weeks ago. Did we just win? I woke up Friday morning to an email from Piedmont Property Group. Subject, Notice of Invalid Board Actions, October 3rd, 2024. My stomach dropped before I even opened it. Last night's votes are invalid. President Brennan consulted with HOA legal counsel. The meeting was improperly conducted. The president must be present for votes to count. All fines remain in effect. Payment deadline unchanged. I forwarded it to Edgar and called him immediately. They're saying the votes don't count. I'm reading it now. Papers rustled in the background. This is garbage, but it might technically be correct depending on how the bylaws define quorum. What does that mean? It means I need to review the bylaws more carefully. There's ambiguity about whether the president is required for valid votes. If Charles is right, we gained nothing last night. I hung up and stared at my phone. We'd stood up to him in front of 40 people. We'd presented evidence. Margaret had finally found her spine, and Charles just erased it all with one email. 10 minutes later, my phone started buzzing. Facebook notifications, 20, 30, 50. Linda Kowalski had posted in the Oak Ridge HOA community group. Last night, a small group of disgruntled homeowners attempted to sabotage your HOA's governance. They spread false information and created chaos. The board is working to restore order. Please disregard any rumors about suspended fines. The comments started immediately. Thank you, Linda. We need strong leadership. Some people just can't follow rules and want special treatment. I watched the comments pile up. 50 in an hour. People I'd never met calling me entitled. Calling me a troublemaker. Saying I couldn't afford to live here and should leave. One comment stood out. This is what happens when you let single mothers who can't maintain their property buy in our neighborhood. I sat there shaking, wanting to throw my phone across the room. Then I opened a new comment. I typed fast, posted before I could second guess myself. I'm Elena Martinez. Here's what actually happened. I attached photos of my violation notices next to the bylaw sections they violated. I posted Yuki's spreadsheet showing selective enforcement. I posted the timeline of everything that had happened in the past month. I ended with, I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm asking for the rules to apply equally to everyone. If I'm wrong, show me how. I hit post. Within an hour, my post had been shared 80 times. People who hadn't been at the meeting were seeing the evidence for the first time. The comments shifted. Wait, this is actually documented? I got fined for the same thing and I thought I was the only one. Charles Brennan's neighbor has had an RV in his driveway for months. No fine, Edgar called. Why did you post that publicly? I told you to stay quiet. I'm done being quiet. They're lying about what happened. People need to see the truth. You just painted a bigger target on your back. The target was already there. By Friday afternoon, a local neighborhood blog had picked up the story. Brookhaven HOA accused of discrimination and financial impropriety. The article included quotes from residents on both sides, included photos from Yuki's data, included Charles's response that the allegations were false and defamatory. But the photos didn't lie. My phone kept buzzing. Messages from neighbors I'd never spoken to, some supportive, some angry, some just curious. Martha texted the Signal group. Someone left a note on my door. Drop it or we'll make sure you lose your house. Diane posted. My daughter came home crying again. A kid at school said we're criminals. James posted a screenshot. His boss had received an anonymous email claiming James was under investigation for HOA violations and might be unstable. They were coming after all of us now. Charles wasn't backing down. He was escalating. The weekend after the meeting, everything changed. Saturday morning, I took Maya to her soccer game. 2 moms I usually chatted with turned their backs when they saw me coming. One of them, Jessica, her husband worked with Charles. She said it loud enough for me to hear. I heard she's trying to destroy property values. She should sell if she can't afford to live here. Maya tugged my sleeve. Mommy, why won't Sophia's mom talk to us? I forced a smile. Some grown-ups are having a disagreement about neighborhood rules. Are we in trouble? No, baby. We're fine. But she knew I was lying. Sunday, I went to church. Same church I'd attended every week since moving here. I walked in and saw Linda Kowalski sitting 3 rows from the front. I didn't know she went here. After the service, she stood in the fellowship hall surrounded by 5 other parishioners, loud enough for half the room to hear. It's so hard when people abuse community trust. We try to be fair, but some people just want to tear down what others have built. She glanced at me, then back to her audience. The message was clear. Pastor Mike approached me near the coffee station. Elena, I heard there's some conflict in your neighborhood. If you need pastoral counseling about accepting community standards, my door is always open. I stared at him. Accepting community standards? Linda mentioned you've been causing some discord. She's concerned for you. Linda had gotten to him first. Framed me as the problem. I left without drinking my coffee. Monday morning at work, my nurse manager Rhonda called me into her office. Rhonda was tough. 15 years in the ER. Didn't take crap from anyone. But her face looked worried now. Elena, I got a call from HR. Someone filed a complaint that you've been distracted at work, making mistakes. They cited that medication error you almost made 3 weeks ago. My stomach dropped. Who filed the complaint? Anonymous, but HR takes all complaints seriously. I'm required to put you on performance monitoring for 30 days. This is because of the HOA situation. I don't know what it's about, but you need to be careful. One more mistake and this goes on your permanent record. I walked out of her office shaking. Someone from the HOA had connections at the hospital. Someone had called HR specifically to threaten my job. This wasn't just about neighborhood fines anymore. They were coming after my career, my ability to support my daughter. I made it through my shift, went home, found Maya sitting at the kitchen table doing homework. She looked up at me. Mommy, are we going to have to move? What? Number, why would you think that? Because everyone's mad at you. And Sophia said her mom said we don't belong here. I sat down next to her. Baby, we're not moving. Some people are just being mean right now. But it'll get better. She went back to her homework, but I could see the worry in her eyes. That night I couldn't sleep, just kept thinking about everything they'd taken from me. My peace, my reputation, my church community, now my job security. Charles Brennan had turned my entire life into a war zone, and I still had 14 days until the lien deadline. Tuesday evening, I sat in my car outside my house and couldn't make myself go inside. My chest hurt. I couldn't breathe right. My hands were shaking so hard I couldn't hold my phone steady. I was having a heart attack. I was dying in my car, in my own driveway. I managed to call Yuki. Elena? What's wrong? I couldn't speak. Just gasping. I'm coming over. Stay there. She showed up 10 minutes later, found me still sitting in my car with the door open. Come on, let's get you inside. She walked me to my door, made me sit on the couch, went to my kitchen and made tea like she'd been in my house 100 times. Drink this. I took the cup. My hands were still shaking. Tea sloshed over the rim. I can't do this anymore. Yes, you can. I'm going to lose my nursing license. I'm going to lose my house. Maya is being bullied because of me. I should just pay the fines and disappear. Yuki sat down next to me. With what money? You don't have $3,200. I'll borrow it. I'll figure it out. And then what? They'll just fine you again and again. You'll be broke and they'll still have all the power. I started crying. I'm so tired. I just want my normal life back. Yuki was quiet for a minute. Then she said something I didn't expect. I have severe social anxiety. I barely leave my house except for work. Joining this fight was terrifying for me. I looked at her. I spent years hiding because I was afraid of conflict. It didn't make me safe. It made me a target. Charles chose you, chose me, chose all of us because we seemed like we wouldn't fight back. We have to prove him wrong. I heard footsteps on the stairs. Maya stood there in her pajamas. She was supposed to be asleep. Mommy, are we going to be okay? I wiped my face fast. Yes, baby. We're going to be okay. Maya came over and sat next to me. You always tell me that running away from hard things doesn't make them easier. You said I have to face my ADHD and learn to work with my brain, not against it. She was 8 years old and teaching me my own lesson back to me. You're right. So we're not running away? No, we're not running away. After Yuki left and Maya went back to bed, I pulled out my phone. I texted the Signal group. Emergency meeting tomorrow night. My house. I'm not backing down. Then I stood in Maya's doorway watching her sleep. Tomorrow I'd find out if the other 10 people were still with me, or if I'd be fighting alone. But either way, I was done running. Charles Brennan made a mistake when he targeted me. He thought I was weak because I was a single mother, because I worked night shifts, because I apologized when I paid those first fines. He didn't know that nursing teaches you to function under pressure, that being a single parent teaches you to survive on nothing, that growing up poor teaches you that losing isn't the worst thing, not fighting back is. Thursday would come, and so would I. Wednesday evening, everyone showed up at my house, all 11. Nobody had backed out. Maya was sleeping over at her friend's house. We had the place to ourselves. Edgar arrived last. He was carrying a manila folder, set it down on my coffee table like it was evidence in a murder trial. I found our smoking gun. The room went quiet. Susan Okafor contacted me yesterday. She's one of the board members. She's terrified of Charles, but she wants out. The guilt has been eating at her. He opened the folder, pulled out printed emails. She has access to Charles's HOA email account. She printed these for us. He laid them out. Email from Charles to Derek Brennan, August 12, 2024. Subject, problem tenants. Body, Martinez property continues to be issue. Increase monitoring frequency on Oak Lane cul-de-sac. Focus on 2,847, 2,851, 2,855. Should generate sufficient fees to discourage continued residents. I stared at the words. My address. Martha's address. Diane's address. 3 single mothers on the same street. He targeted us on purpose, Martha whispered. Edgar nodded. This is proof of intentional discrimination with explicit goal of forcing you out. Susan also provided financial records showing Charles approved the 60-40 revenue split with Prestige Towing. Derek Brennan is Charles's brother-in-law. That's verified through public records. Prestige received $18,400 in 4 months. Charles didn't personally pocket money, but his family financially benefited. That's conflict of interest and self-dealing under Georgia HOA law. So what do we do? Diane asked. We sue. HOA, Charles personally, and Prestige Towing. I don't have money for a lawsuit, I said. I can draft it pro bono using my old firm's resources. But lawsuits take time. Elena, you have 12 days until your lien deadline. Yuki spoke up. What if we go public? Media, local news, make this too visible for them to continue. Edgar shook his head. Risky. If reporters side with the HOA, it could work against us. Diane raised her hand like we were in school. What about the full homeowner community? There are 240 houses here. If we get majority support, we can call a special election to remove Charles. That's in the bylaws, right? Edgar flipped through his folder. Section 11.2. Recall election can be triggered by petition signed by 30% of homeowners. That's 72 signatures. Can we get 72 signatures in 12 days? James asked. Yuki pulled up her laptop. We can try. We voted legal action, media exposure, and recall petition, all 3 at once. Edgar would draft the lawsuit. Yuki would contact the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. She'd found a reporter who specialized in HOA abuse stories. I would lead the petition drive. We had 12 days to save my house, and maybe change everything. Thursday morning, we started going door to door. I took the left side of Oak Lane. Yuki took the right. Edgar, Martha, and Diane split up the other streets. First house, woman in her 50s answered. I explained about the recall petition. She signed immediately. Charles fined me $200 because my Christmas lights were up past January 1st. It was January 2nd. Second house, retired couple. They both signed. We've been afraid to say anything. Thank you for doing this. By end of Thursday, 18 signatures. Mostly people already in our group. Friday, the momentum picked up. I knocked on a door. Young dad answered with a toddler on his hip. You're the one standing up to Charles? Yes. Where do I sign? He called to his wife. She came to the door, signed too. He fined us $300 because our son's bicycle was visible from the street. He's 4 years old. Where else is he supposed to keep his bike? By Friday evening, 49 signatures total, 31 new ones. People kept telling me their stories, minor violations, arbitrary enforcement, feeling bullied but too scared to speak up. But not everyone supported us. Saturday afternoon, I knocked on Mike Davidson's door. He worked in finance with Charles. I'd seen them at the pool together last summer. He opened the door, saw me. His face went hard. You're ruining this neighborhood. I'm just asking people to sign a petition for a recall election. Charles keeps the riffraff out. Property values are up 12% since he took over. Maybe you should take the hint. I'm not riffraff. I'm a nurse. I pay my mortgage. I follow actual rules. The actual rule is that Charles decides. Don't like it? Move. He slammed the door. I stood there shaking. Moved to the next house. That evening, Sandra Williams showed up at my door. She was holding a clipboard. I got 12 signatures from people at work. Told them what was happening. Most of them are healthcare workers. They understand. I looked at the names. People I'd never met. People who didn't even live in Oak Ridge but had heard the story and wanted to help somehow. I didn't think anyone would care, Sandra said, about another black woman being pushed out. But your fight made room for mine. I'm not backing out now. Saturday night we counted. 84 signatures. 12 more than we needed. We met at Yuki's house, all of us crowded around her dining table. Edgar had the official recall petition form. We attached all 84 signature pages, organized them alphabetically, made 3 copies. Sunday morning, we delivered them to the HOA office. Certified mail, hand delivery with witnesses, took photos of everything. The petition stated special election within 30 days to remove Charles Brennan as president and board member. Grounds, financial self-dealing, selective enforcement, violation of fiduciary duty. Edgar read it out loud before we sealed the envelope. This is it. Once we file this, there's no going back. Good, I said. I'm done going back. We mailed it. 9 days until my lien deadline. 30 days until the recall election. Charles Brennan was about to find out what happens when you push people too far. Monday morning, a reporter from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution called me. Ms. Martinez? This is Daniel Kim. I received a comprehensive documentation package about your HOA situation. I'd like to do a story. Yuki had sent him everything. Emails, spreadsheet, photos, bylaw analysis. What do you need from me? Interviews, multiple homeowners, photos of the properties, financial records if you have them. I spent the day coordinating, connected him with Martha, Diane, James, Sandra. He drove out Tuesday afternoon. I watched him photograph my house, then Martha's house with her faded mailbox. Then he walked 3 doors down to Charles's neighbor's house and photographed the RV that had been parked there for 7 months. No fine, no notice. He took notes, asked questions, recorded everything. Wednesday morning, the article went live. Brookhaven, HOA accused of targeting single mothers and minorities with questionable fines. I read it on my phone before my shift started. The article was detailed, included Charles's response. These allegations are false and defamatory. The HOA enforces rules equally. This is a coordinated attack by homeowners who refuse to maintain their properties. But the photos told a different story. Elena Martinez grass at 3.2 inches, fined $150. Neighbor's grass at 4.1 inches, no fine. The article included a quote from a legal expert. If these documents are authentic, they show clear pattern of discrimination and financial self-dealing. By end of day, the article had been shared 2,400 times. Wednesday evening, a news van showed up at my house, Channel 2 Action News. The reporter interviewed me on my front porch, asked about the fines, the targeting, the recall petition. Then she went to Charles's house. He stood in his doorway looking calm. This is a disgruntled homeowner who doesn't want to follow community standards. We've done nothing wrong. Thursday night, the segment aired. 6 minutes. Interviews with me, Charles, and 3 neutral homeowners. The comments on the news station's Facebook page went crazy. 800 comments in 2 hours. Most supporting us. This happened to my parents in their HOA. It's abuse. HOAs are legal extortion. Good for her for fighting back. Friday morning, Edgar called. The story made Reddit. Atlanta subreddit, over 800 comments. I pulled it up on my phone. People were sharing their own HOA horror stories, talking about systemic abuse. Someone had cross-posted to a national HOA reform group. Our story was everywhere. 7 days until my lien deadline. Friday morning, I opened my mailbox and found a certified letter. Another one. I ripped it open standing in my driveway. Summons and complaint. Charles Brennan versus Elena Martinez. Defamation. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. Coordinated harassment campaign. Demanding $50,000 in damages. Demanding a restraining order preventing me from discussing HOA matters publicly. Court date in 21 days. I couldn't breathe. I called Edgar. He's suing me, personally, for defamation. I'm looking at it now. This is a SLAP suit, strategic lawsuit against public participation. He's trying to silence you through legal costs. I can't afford to defend this. It's baseless. But you're right. Defending it requires a lawyer, time, money, and if he gets that restraining order, you can't campaign for the recall. I hung up and sat on my front steps. 6 days until my lien deadline. Now I had a $50,000 lawsuit hanging over my head. Charles was trying to bury me. By noon, everyone in the neighborhood knew about the lawsuit. The reaction wasn't what Charles expected. My phone started ringing. Neighbors I'd never spoken to. Some of the people who'd signed the recall petition. This is too far. He's bullying you with lawyers now. Even Mike Davidson, who'd slammed the door in my face last week, stopped me at the mailbox. I don't agree with what you're doing, but suing you personally, that's not right. At 3 p.m., I got a call from an Atlanta number I didn't recognize. Ms. Martinez, this is Sarah Okonkwo with the Georgia ACLU. I read about your lawsuit. We'd like to help. I can't afford a lawyer. We'll represent you pro bono. SLAP suits are used to silence people exercising their First Amendment rights. We specialize in these cases, and we're going to countersue Charles Brennan for SLAP abuse. I started crying on the phone. That evening, someone I barely knew started a GoFundMe. Help Elena fight HOA abuse. By Sunday morning, it had raised $8,400. People from across Atlanta were donating $10, $20, $50, leaving comments. This happened to my grandmother. Fight back. HOAs are out of control. Good luck. Monday afternoon, Margaret called an emergency board meeting. She, Paul, and Susan voted to censure Charles for filing a personal lawsuit using HOA matters. Voted 3-2 to hire an independent mediator to review all pending fines. Charles stormed out. Linda Kowalski resigned from the board that same day. She knew she was on a sinking ship. Tuesday morning, Charles sent an email to the entire HOA distribution list. I am being targeted by a coordinated smear campaign. These allegations are false. I will not resign. I will fight this recall election, and I will win. But his email only made people angrier. The recall election was scheduled for November 8th, 17 days away. My lien deadline was October 27th, 4 days away. Everything was coming to a head. Saturday, October 19th, 2:30 a.m., I woke up to glass shattering. A brick came through my front window. I ran to the living room. Glass everywhere. Cold air pouring in. The brick was wrapped in paper. Leave or it gets worse. Maya started screaming from her bedroom. I ran upstairs. She was standing in her doorway crying. Mommy, what happened? It's okay, baby. Stay here. And I called 911. Police arrived 12 minutes later, took photos, asked questions, found the brick, read the note. The officer looked at me. Ma'am, this is serious. Do you have somewhere else you can stay tonight? I took Maya to Yuki's house at 3:30 in the morning. She was sobbing, asking if bad people were going to hurt us. I held her on Yuki's couch until she fell asleep. This wasn't about HOA fines anymore. Someone had committed a crime. Sunday morning, Detective Sharon Willis came to my house. She walked around the broken window, checked the street, talked to neighbors. The house across the street had a security camera, caught a vehicle, dark pickup truck. Couldn't read the plate. Derek Brennan drives a dark pickup, I said. Charles Brennan's brother-in-law? Yes, she wrote it down. Sunday afternoon, 15 neighbors showed up at my house. They brought plywood, covered the window, swept up glass. One guy installed a temporary security camera he'd bought at Home Depot. James Park organized a neighborhood watch. Volunteers would take shifts watching my house overnight. Someone started a petition to terminate the Prestige towing contract. Got 120 signatures in 2 days. People who'd stayed neutral were picking sides now. Sunday evening, my phone rang. Unknown number. Elena, this is Karen Brennan, Charles's wife. Can we meet? I don't want him to know. We met at Starbucks. She looked exhausted, older than I remembered. I didn't know it had gone this far, she said. Charles is obsessed. He's not sleeping. He sees conspiracies everywhere. Did he throw that brick? I think he had Derek do it. She was crying now. Charles has been in financial trouble for 2 years. He was forced to retire early from the insurance company. Investigation into fraudulent claims. He needs the Prestige towing revenue. He gets 20% of Derek's profits under the table. He's been stealing from the HOA. He'll lose everything if this comes out. The house, his reputation, everything. I don't know what he'll do next. Please be careful. She left before I could ask anything else. I sat in my car in the Starbucks parking lot. Charles wasn't just corrupt, he was desperate. And desperate people do dangerous things. The recall petition was being processed. Election in 17 days. My lien deadline was in 4 days. 3 weeks felt like forever when someone was willing to hurt my daughter. I had to make a decision, keep fighting and risk everything, or quit and stay safe. Except safe didn't exist anymore. The moment I questioned Charles, I made an enemy. The only way out was through. Monday morning, Detective Willis called me. We got the license plate from your neighbor's security footage. Ran it through the system. Vehicles registered to Prestige Towing and Property Services. My stomach dropped. Derek Brennan. We obtained a warrant to search their premises. Found a second brick that matches the one thrown through your window. Derek Brennan was arrested an hour ago. I sat down hard on my couch. He's being charged with criminal damage to property. In Georgia, over $500 damage is a felony. Your window replacement estimate was $800. Did he say why he did it? He's cooperating. Gave a statement. Says Charles Brennan asked him to scare you into dropping the recall petition. We have text messages. Charles wrote, that Martinez woman needs to understand consequences. Make her nervous. I couldn't speak. Ms. Martinez, we arrested Charles Brennan 2 hours ago. Conspiracy to commit assault. Intimidation of a witness. He's being arraigned this afternoon. After I hung up, I just sat there. Charles Brennan was in jail. By noon, every news station in Atlanta was covering it. HOA president arrested for alleged intimidation campaign. Channel 2 sent a reporter to my house. I stood on my porch with the plywood still covering my window. How do you feel about the arrest? Relieved. Scared. I just want this to be over. The story went regional. Georgia Public Radio, WSB-TV. A reporter from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution called asking for a follow-up interview. Edgar texted the Signal Group. This is bigger than Oak Ridge now. We're the face of HOA reform. That evening, a woman from a national HOA reform organization called me. Your case is exactly why we're pushing for legislative change. Would you be willing to speak to state legislators? I wasn't trying to be an activist. I just wanted to keep my house. But somehow this had become bigger than me. Tuesday morning, Charles made bail, $200,000. Someone posted it. He was out. Wednesday, Derek's lawyer negotiated a plea deal. Derek would testify against Charles. His charges would be reduced to a misdemeanor, community service, restitution. He had to pay me $4,800 for the window and emotional distress. Charles's trial was scheduled for March, but the recall election was November 8th, 2.5 weeks away. My lien deadline was October 27th, 4 days. Tuesday morning, the remaining board members held an emergency meeting. Margaret Chen was acting president now. She sat at the head table with Paul Richardson and Susan Okafor. I watched from the audience. So did 50 other homeowners. Margaret's voice shook, but she got through it. We're voting to suspend Charles Brennan's board membership pending criminal trial. All in favor? 3 hands went up. We're terminating the Prestige towing contract effective immediately. All in favor? 3 hands. We're suspending all pending fines community-wide pending independent review. All in favor? 3 hands. Paul spoke next. We're hiring a new management company, not Piedmont Property Group. They failed to provide oversight. We need neutral third-party management. Susan added, we're also hiring a forensic accountant to audit HOA finances for the past 3 years. The accountant started work Wednesday, finished preliminary review by Friday. Saturday morning, Margaret called a special all-homeowner meeting. The clubhouse was packed. 180 people, 75% of the community. Margaret stood at the front. She looked exhausted. The forensic audit revealed significant financial mismanagement, $43,000 in questionable fines over 10 months. Prestige. Towing received $22,700 total. 73% of fines went to just 19 properties, 8% of our community. And people started murmuring. Charles approved multiple vendor contracts to family and friend connections without required competitive bidding. Our HOA reserve fund was depleted by $87,000 over 3 years, expenses we can't account for. Someone in the back yelled, where did the money go? We don't know yet. The accountant recommends we cancel all fines issued under the Prestige contract and pursue civil action against Charles for financial recovery. Margaret called for votes. Cancel all fines issued under Prestige contract. 168 to 4. Passed. Pursue civil lawsuit against Charles Brennan. 142 to 28. Passed. Implement new bylaws requiring transparency. 171 to 1. Passed. Then came board elections. Edgar Webb, Yuki Chen, 3 others who'd been vocal about reform, all 5 elected. When Margaret announced the results, people applauded. I sat there crying. It was over. My fines were voided. All $3,200, gone. The lien threat was gone. I could keep my house. Maya could stay in her school, everything I'd been fighting for. We won. The legal resolution came in pieces over the next few months. Charles's criminal trial was scheduled for March 2025. 5 months away. His lawyer worked out a plea deal in January. Guilty to reduced charges, intimidation of a witness, conspiracy to commit assault, 18 months probation, 200 hours community service, restraining order, preventing contact with me, and 8 other homeowners. He had to resign permanently from all HOA positions. Derek got a similar deal, plus $4,800 restitution to me for the window. The civil cases moved faster. The HOA sued Charles and Derek for financial damages. The ACLU represented me in a countersuit against Charles for slap, abuse, and civil rights violations. Everything got consolidated, settled out of court in January. Charles and Derek paid $31,000 to the HOA for recovery of misappropriated funds. Charles paid $12,000 for my legal costs. Charles paid $8,000 to me for emotional distress. All defamation claims against me were dismissed with prejudice, and Charles was prohibited from living in any HOA community in Georgia for 10 years. The settlement check arrived in late January, $8,000. I stared at it sitting on my kitchen table. My $3,200 in fines had been voided, removed from my record completely. The lien threat was gone. This $8,000 was extra. I paid off my car loan, $3,400, no more monthly payments. Put $2,000 in emergency savings. Actually had a cushion now. Set aside $1,800 for Maya's therapy, covered for the whole year. The rest went to something I never thought we'd do. Spring break trip to Disney World. Just me and Maya. She cried when I told her. Happy tears. The kind that make everything worth it. February came. I was sleeping through nights again, not checking locks 3 times, not jumping at every car that drove past. The panic attack stopped. I went off the Ativan. Work took me off performance monitoring. No more mistakes. No more almost errors. Maya's teacher emailed. She seems so much happier lately. Whatever changed at home is really helping. I hadn't told her teacher anything, but Maya knew. Kids always know. March arrived. Charles's sentencing hearing was on the 10th. I didn't go. Didn't need to see him again. Edgar went. Texted me after. He looked old. Broken. Judge gave him the full 18 months probation. Charles's house went up for sale in February. Sold in March. He moved out of state. Nobody knew where. Some neighbors still resented me. Thought I'd caused too much drama. I didn't care anymore. The new board was functional. Boring. Meetings about landscaping contracts and pool maintenance schedules. Edgar served. Made sure procedures were followed. Yuki tracked everything in spreadsheets. The HOA still had rules, still sent occasional legitimate violation notices, but enforcement was fair now. My grass could be 3.4 inches and nobody cared. My mailbox could be slightly crooked and nobody measured it. Maya's bike could sit in the driveway and nobody fined me. Normal. Finally normal. By March, Oak Ridge HOA looked completely different. The new board implemented changes fast. All board meetings recorded on video. Posted to the HOA website within 48 hours. Anyone could watch. Monthly financial reports published online, every line item detailed, every expense explained. Any vendor contract over $1,000 required 3 competitive bids. Over $10,000 required homeowner vote. Edgar made sure of it. Enforcement changed too. First violation got a written warning, no fine, 30 days to fix it. Violation photos had to include context, wide angle showing surrounding properties. All time-stamped and geotagged. Any fine over $100 required majority board vote in recorded meeting. Appeal process established with neutral third-party arbiter. Financial controls were strict now. Board members couldn't contract with family or businesses they owned. Annual independent audit required. Reserve fund couldn't be touched without homeowner vote. Quarterly statements mailed to every homeowner. The culture shifted. Board meetings became productive discussions, not rubber stamp sessions where Charles told everyone what to do. Homeowners actually showed up, 30 to 40 people every month, asking questions, proposing ideas, voting on things. The Facebook group transformed. Used to be complaints about Charles. Now it was helpful. Someone posted about a plumber. Someone else shared babysitter recommendations. People organizing block parties. April brought the first neighborhood cookout in 5 years. 70 people showed up. Kids running around. Adults actually talking to each other. Martha brought cookies. Sandra brought her famous potato salad. Yuki came even though crowds made her anxious. I stood there watching Maya play with 6 other kids, all of them laughing. Normal neighborhood stuff. The kind of thing that should have always been happening. Edgar walked over, handed me a burger. We did it. Yeah, we did. You know the state legislature is considering HOA reform laws because of this? I didn't want to think about that. Didn't want to be the face of anything. I just wanted to drink my beer and watch my daughter play. Good, I said. Other people shouldn't have to go through what we did. Yuki joined us. Board meeting next week. Proposal to install community garden. You voting? I'll be there. That's what it was now. Boring procedural stuff, budget discussions, landscaping proposals, pool maintenance schedules, exactly what an HOA should be. Nobody measuring grass with rulers, nobody hiding in bushes taking violation photos, nobody threatening to take anyone's house, just neighbors trying to keep the place looking decent. 6 months later, everything was different. I still worked night shifts at Piedmont Hospital, still came home exhausted, still struggled to pay bills on time. But I slept through the night now, didn't wake up checking locks, didn't have panic attacks in my car before work. Maya was thriving. Her grades went up. She made the honor roll in April. Her teacher emailed me. Maya seems so much lighter lately, happier, more confident. I started having coffee with Yuki every Sunday morning. She still had anxiety, still preferred staying home. But she was less isolated now. She told me once that fighting back had been terrifying for her, but staying scared forever would have been worse. Edgar became Maya's honorary grandfather, taught her chess, came to her school events, made her laugh with terrible jokes. Martha baked me cookies every week, her way of saying thank you without having to say it. Sandra and I texted regularly, both single mothers, both exhausted, both survivors. I even started dating again. Met another single parent at Maya's school. We were taking it slow, coffee dates, nothing serious yet, but it felt good to be a person again, not just a mother fighting to keep her house. Saturday morning in June, I sat on my front porch drinking coffee. Maya was playing in the yard with 3 neighborhood kids, laughing, running, being 8. My grass was 3.4 inches tall. I'd measured it as a joke to myself. Nobody cared. My mailbox was slightly crooked. Maya had backed into it with her bike last month. Nobody cited me. The garden hose was visible from the street. Nobody came to photograph it. Maya ran up to the porch, out of breath, sweaty. "Mommy, are we safe now?" I set down my coffee, pulled her onto my lap even though she was getting too big for it. "Yes, baby. We're safe." "How do you know?" "Not because the bad people went away. Bad people are everywhere. But because we learned we don't have to be quiet when someone tries to hurt us. We learned we have friends who will fight with us. We learned that people who abuse power count on us being too scared to challenge them." Maya thought about this. I was scared. Me too. Being scared is okay. Staying scared when you could do something about it, that's the problem. My phone buzzed. Text from Yuki. "Board meeting tonight. Proposal to install community garden." "Your vote?" I smiled. Texted back. "I'll be there." Maya went back to playing. I watched her go. Thought about how close we came to losing everything. Fighting back had cost me peace for months, given me panic attacks, nearly cost me my job, made me enemies. But it gave me something better. Dignity, self-respect, the knowledge that I could stand up and not break. I saved my house. But more importantly, I taught my daughter that home isn't just 4 walls. Home is standing up for yourself, finding people who stand with you, refusing to disappear. I finished my coffee and went inside to make Maya lunch. Just another Saturday in Oak Ridge. The HOA meetings were boring now, exactly like they should be. My grass was too long and nobody cared. I was 6 months behind on thank you cards to everyone who helped us. Maya needed new school shoes. The dishes were piling up. Life was beautifully, perfectly ordinary. Exactly what it should be. Exactly what Charles Brennan tried to take from us. And exactly what we fought like hell to keep.